Hey, financially savvy travelers, welcome back to another episode of the Thought Card Podcast. I'm Danielle Desir Corbett, and I have a little bit of a story to share with you before we get into today's episode. I recently got bumped to first class on a domestic flight with Delta. All right. This was so exciting for me. Let me know if you want me to record an episode all about my experiences, the good, the bad, and disappointing. Either way. While this was my first time ever, like ever flying first class, and the flight was only 20 minutes long, I knew I wanted to continue to fly premium cabins more often. Wanting to fly first class and business class, specifically though, using points and miles, I connected with today's guest, Dave Grossman, who I cannot wait for you to hear from. Dave Grossman has spent the last 15 plus years traveling the world in first class using points and miles, paying only taxes and fees. He has saved tens of thousands of dollars using frequent flyer miles. Dave Grossman is the founder of Miles Talk, that's milestalk.com, a website that provides information on how to earn and spend credit card rewards, frequent flyer miles, and hotel points. He also created a resource called Your Best Credit Cards. That's yourbestcreditcards.com, which is designed to help you find the best credit card for your unique and individual lifestyle. You can find all the links mentioned in the episode description, as well as the accompanying blog posts over at thoughtcard.com. So, in today's episode, Dave breaks down the difference between points, miles, and cash back, and how to choose which one is right for you. He also shares ways to exponentially earn more rewards to afford business and first class tickets. He also shares the best times to book these first class flights using points and miles and so much more. Grab your pen and paper because there's a lot of note taking to be had here, and I don't want you to miss anything that is shared in the episode. If you love these points and miles episodes, you love points and miles tips and strategies, you can now find all of my travel hacking episodes neatly organized in a playlist just for you, a Spotify playlist just for you. So no more needing to dig through the archives of over 200 episodes very soon to find the episodes you need, because I organized them for you in a playlist, in a Spotify playlist. So you could find the link to the playlist also in the episode description. Are y'all ready for this episode? Okay, let's jump in. Welcome to the Thought Card, a podcast about travel and money, where planning, saving, and creativity leads to affording travel, building wealth, and paying off debt. We are the financially savvy travelers. So Dave, I'm so excited and thrilled that you're here because we've talked about points and miles on the podcast, but never the business class or first class perspective. So I want to level set so that everyone who's listening is able to understand some of the terms that we're going to be using today. What's the difference between points, miles, and cashback?
Okay. I love this question. So cashback obviously is the easy one. You're literally just earning cash. So taking the example of a 2% cashback card, you make a $100 purchase and there's $2 sitting in your account for you to redeem, probably for a statement credit or a check. There might be a minimum amount to redeem, whatever, but it's cash. Not to confuse things early, there are some cards where you earn cash back, but if you pair it with another card in the same ecosystem, you might be able to actually convert the cash back into points. So that's sort of expert level, and I'll leave that for now. Then you've got miles, and miles are sort of what everybody thinks of when it comes to using rewards for some business class travel or coach travel or just any free airline travel. And so the big difference between a point and a mile is that a mile is earned on one frequent flyer program. So consider you fly United Airlines and you earn United Mileage Plus miles, or you have the United credit card and you earn mileage plus miles. You can only use those miles through the United Mileage Program. Now, of course, they're in the Star Alliance, so that means you can use them to book other Star Alliance carriers, meaning carriers like Lufthansa or ANA to Japan or Air Canada. And they also have partners as well that you can use them on. But importantly, you are locked into their program. So let's say that right now it costs, and whatever point in time someone is listening says guarantee it changes, and it's always going to cost more than whatever I'm saying now if it's changed, because it's never less. And let's say it's 80,000 miles for the redemption that you want, and you save and you save and you save and you save, and then you're ready to redeem and you go to book and it's 100,000 miles. Well, now you need another 20,000 miles because you're locked into their program. And the other thing is that, let's say you wanted to fly on British Airways. Well, United Airlines doesn't partner with British Airways. So if British Airways has the only flight that you want, let's say you're trying to get to a city in the UK and you need to connect through London or whatever on British Airways, or the only way to do it another way is much more roundabout. Well, you can't use your United Miles for that because you're locked in. So that brings me to points. And points, by definition, at least by my definition, and I think by most people's definition, refers to transferable points. And what that means is that these are typically issued by a bank. So we think of the main ones being Chase Ultimate Rewards, American Express membership rewards, Citi Thank You points, and Capital One miles. Those are the big four. And they all have a list of airline and hotel partners that you can transfer your points to. And the reason that this is so important, there's actually two reasons, one fun reason and one practical reason. So the practical reason first is that when you decide you want to go somewhere, you can actually check the whole range of airlines. Basically, you could check all the range of airlines in the world, and one of your transfer partners will partner with that airline. So if you wanted to fly Japan Airlines, none of the transferable points transfer to Japan Airlines, but for instance, any of the ones that transfer to Cathay Pacific could be used to book your Japan Airlines flight. So the transferable points allow you to move the points to the program that is going to pay off for you on the flight that you want at a given point in time. And that could be for either the reason that there's no availability, another route, or if there is specifically available, going a particular route, or simply there's a term that I use called frequent flyer arbitrage. I don't know if I made that up, but I think I did. And it basically refers to the fact that different airlines have different award charts for the same flights, right? So I might pay 70,000 miles to book on Air Canada for the exact same flight that I might spend 60,000 miles on United or 67,000 miles on Avianca Life Miles, et cetera, et cetera. So finding the cheapest one, once I know there's a flight available, then I want to find the best program to transfer my points to. And the little bonus is that pretty much all of the transferable points programs offer transfer bonuses from time to time. So you might wake up and find out that for the next month, if you transfer your Amex points to Virgin Atlantic, for example, you'll get 30% more points. So you transfer 10,000, get 13,000. Now, again, compare that to if you were just earning through an airline credit card. There's never going to be a transfer bonus because you can't transfer because they're already there and you're locked in. So points are the way to go. And I take the extra time on that explanation because whenever I'm teaching this, I think that understanding that transferable points give you the ultimate flexibility, and they are always better than earning miles in 99% of cases because you can transfer them to miles, but you can't go the other way around.
Okay. And that was my next question was with so many different options, which one should we be focusing in on? And I would say that my listeners are point A to point B hackers, probably never flown first class before. So should we be focusing our time and effort on the points aspect of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you do, you will be able to fly first or business class internationally if you have some flexibility. So there's two things, and I might be jumping ahead on one of your questions, so pardon me, but you need flexibility on dates, sometimes on location, sometimes you need to be okay with a long layover. But if there's a particular first or business class that you want to fly, or you're just simply trying to get to a destination and you're determined to be in first or business class, there's almost always a way to do it if you're a little flexible on dates specifically. You want to go on the 27th and you searched every program and there's just nothing doing on the 27th, but maybe on the 26th or the 28th or the 29th, you can find something that works really well. And the other side is that there is, if you're not really into this, you would not realize that there is a specific date that every program opens up their award chart for booking. And that can be really key because if you find a program that opens up their awards, or you can start booking their awards earlier than another program. And let's say, so Cathay Pacific and Japan Airlines both open their programs quite early. I believe it's 360 days before the flight. I do have a list on Miles Talk. If you search for when the airlines open up award availability, every airline is listed there, and they're mostly all different. And you literally need to count back on the calendar and figure out what date that is and make yourself a note. Okay, that's when I'm going to start checking. And that gives you an advantage because, for example, American Airlines will let you book the same flights, but their award space opens up, it's either 330 or 331 days in advance. So you've lost a month to people that have already booked these flights. And so maybe they were able to snag a seat or two, maybe the only seat or two. And what's left for people with programs that open them up later is nothing. So that's a really, really good tip, especially if you're trying to get flights to Asia, Australia. Australia and New Zealand are the absolute hardest. And Asia would be the next hardest because they're the longest flights. And so they're the most in demand to be in a premium cabin. So if you're flexible, especially if you know about when they open up space and you know what programs your particular points transfer to, then you're going to be in a really good spot. As for which points, there really isn't a best point. Some people really like the Chase ecosystem for a few reasons. One, it's very simple. Two, it's easy to pair cards together so that you can earn 3% on one card, transfer those points to another card where it would have only earned 1%, right? Combine them all together so you have more points. And Hyatt is a transfer partner of Chase, which is a fan favorite. I personally get my highest value hotel redemptions from Hyatt, hands down. They have some really, really amazing luxury properties. But if you want to go on the low end, I mean, you can get, I think they start at 3,500 points a night, and then you can spend 80,000 points a night. So a huge range. So Hyatt makes Chase very valuable, in my opinion. Excluding Hyatt, there's a lot of similarities between the various programs, but another reason some people are familiar or want to be familiar with Chase is simply because they have United as a partner and they have Southwest as a partner. And not that you need domestic partners to succeed in this because of the partner game, how the airlines partner with each other. Some people just like the familiarity of being able to transfer to United. Whereas if you have Capital One or Citi, they don't have any domestic partners. So you might feel a little bit less familiar, but they're really no less valuable because you just need to know where to go.
Ooh, that was a lot. That was a lot of good little nuggets. So I'm hearing be flexible and
Yes.
knowing when the award charts open is very important when it comes to the redemption side. Now, I know a lot of us, like for me, I've never flown first class before, but whenever I'm like shuffling through the airplane, I'm always looking to see what first class and business class is doing. Like, what are they experiencing there? So, how would you describe first class versus business class? Is there a difference? Are there some airlines that kind of have it all in one now? Walk us through the differentiation there.
Sure. So I think the first thing to note is that a lot of airlines have actually been doing away with first class, true international first class. I know American right now has a plan to remove all international first class plus their transcontinental first class within the next couple of years. Their top tier will be business class. Delta Airlines, there is nothing higher than Delta One, which is their business class. They don't have a true first class product. And so you are starting to see a loss of first class. However, there's still plenty of real, true, amazing first class. And there are even some that are coming out with brand new ones. Another big difference between business class and first, if you've only ever flown in economy and you've walked through the first and business class cabin, I mean, it all just looks absolutely amazing. And it's not until you fly international business class and then fly international first class that you actually see the true difference between those two products. So business class is obviously a billion times better than economy. You get a flatbed seat. I don't know if there's anything more important than a flatbed seat when you're on a long flight. And then of course you get, a nice meal, you probably get some champagne, that kind of stuff. But international business class could still have 80 seats in the cabin. And so you're going to get most likely good service, good food. You'll have your flatbed seat, but you're not going to be treated like royalty. Let's put it that way. Now, when you moved first class, and some of the best first class products would be ANA and JAL to Japan, and the Middle East has some amazing first class products. So Emirates first class and Etihad, they call their first class on certain select routes the apartment, which is a different product than their regular first class. I mean, I have flown the apartment. Even if you get two apartments that are next to each other, you can partially connect them. So if you're traveling with a significant other, you can have a little bit of additional space with them. Singapore Airlines just launched a new first class where you can literally combine two seats. So in the Etihad apartments, you're sort of opening up part of the wall, but not connecting them. And in the new Singapore, you actually remove a wall and you make one gigantic suite and one gigantic suite now two into one super gigantic suite, two recliner chairs, two beds. That would be four TVs. It's pretty crazy. And the last thing I'll mention is that not only do some of these planes have onboard bars, and some of them are available to business class passengers, even so, Emirates A380 planes have bars that business class and first class passengers can mingle at. But the Etihad apartment and the Emirates first class on the A380 have onboard showers. And the experience of taking a shower in the sky is crazy. You will get only 5 minutes of time in the shower, which is because they can only bring so much water on board for the showers. But it's actually really cool. And, once you've been flying for 12 hours, and then they're like, sir, would you like your shower, man? Would you like your shower? And you're like, yeah, actually a little sweaty from sleeping. And yeah, that would be refreshing. A JAL first class or an Emirates first class to Asia or the Middle East could run you 15, 20, $30,000. And there are people that pay that, but none of us do, right? We look for those miles redemptions. And so they're tremendous values. On the latest Emirates A380, for example, and this is only on a handful of their planes, it's a 111 configuration. And if you are in the middle, they have these high resolution cameras that make it as if you are at a window seat. You like look around and it looks like you're looking out the plane, but you're actually in the middle with two aisles and seats on the side. Crazy, crazy. So first class is on less airlines than before, but the opulence of the ones that it remains on has not lessened. And if anything, it's gotten more.
I love that you teased this out because you mentioned that there are folks who I'm in that camp where I'm using my points and miles to travel more. And maybe have a little bit more luxury than I would if I paid cash, but definitely I'm in the travel more camp. But for folks who want to bridge that gap, they're like, you know what? I'm at this point in life where I want to work towards getting my points and miles to be able to redeem these business class and first class tickets. How do you bridge the gap? Because sometimes it looks like it's exponentially many more points. How are we physically like doing the work to get there?
For most people, if you're not familiar with the game, and it sort of really is a game, figuring out the best ways to approach things and finding the value in things. Like in the Miles Talk Facebook group, we are very friendly to beginners. And so if someone, from your podcast were to come on and say, hey, I listened to what you and Danielle were talking about, and I have never flown business class, and I'm hoping to go to Italy next year. Can you give me some tips? And there's so many different ways that nobody would think about that we can often, especially if you're willing to plan a year in advance. If you're willing to plan a year in advance, it doesn't mean you have the pick of anything you want, but it means we have a lot more options. The sweet spot, by the way, is when booking opens and then close to the date of the flight, like within a couple weeks. Everything in between is a total crapshoot, whether there'll be availability, because it's all based on the airline's proprietary revenue management people saying, like, we think we can sell X number of these seats for cash. And they're never going to give them away for miles if they think that they can get a paying customer. Like if someone was like, I really want to go to Italy, I might point out, okay, well, Emirates operates a Fifth Freedom flight from New York to Milan. And if your travel plans in Milan, even if you can land in Milan and take a train or land in Milan and take a car, and if it's easy for you to get to New York, and some people take what we call positioning flights. You're able to get this great flight to Milan. We got it for a very reasonable amount of points in business class or maybe even first class, but you live in Chicago. Well, you're not going to be able to add on that Chicago to New York flight into the itinerary on Emirates because they don't fly that and they don't have partners that fly that. But book a your own flight for $130 or whatever from Chicago to New York, stay the night in New York, and take off the next day. Good excuse to get a night in New York too. That's one way we could do it. ITA Airways just replaced Alitalia a couple of years ago as the national Italian carrier, and you can book those awards using Air France or Virgin Miles, which you can transfer from a variety of partners. So yeah, maybe it's 85,000 miles instead of 30,000 miles, and that's per direction. You're definitely going to pay a premium, but you're going to get that night and day difference in what you're booking. And there's all sorts of examples of like, that's one of those like, did you think of, right? Because not everybody is going to think, oh, maybe Emirates can take me from New York to Milan. And because of that, especially when you book way out, there tends to be more availability.
What I'm hearing is we're asking ourselves who can take us to maybe not necessarily always the destination we're going to, but it could be a positioning flight where we're like, who can get us close or who can get us around the where we could get started, right? And then from there you could pick your trip. Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, positioning flights are one part of the strategy. If you put in your origin and destination and you're trying to cross all of the different airlines and nothing's coming up, then the next technique would be, okay, well, what if I start from somewhere else? So you want to do some research and figure out, okay, where, if you're trying to go from Chicago to Milan, for example, right, and you put that into Google or whatever, it's probably not going to bring up that Emirates flight because you're not starting from New York. So, it's people like us in the group that without a second thought would be like, have you looked into the JFK to MXP flight? Right. And we would, I mean, within 10 minutes of someone asking the question, somebody would have said, hey, did you think about this? And they'd be like, no, I never ever would have thought about that because I'm, say, in Chicago or I'm in Dallas. And then we would say, well, you can always buy a positioning flight to get there. So it's not going to be anybody's first thought. But when you exhaust that first option, then that's something to think about. Is there another place in the US that I can grab that flight from at a saver rate, the cheapest possible business or first class rate, and then get there?
Got it. Got it. Okay, perfect. I'm actually working on a trip to Berlin. It's in September though, so I don't think I have that much time, but I'm going to see what my options are and I'll
You'll
definitely
find
be
something.
joining. I'll find something, right? Okay, perfect, perfect. So, we know that opening credit cards is one way to get an amazing amount of points and miles that can potentially even pay for your flights, right? But what are some other lucrative ways that listeners may not be thinking about in terms of earning your points and miles?
So, okay, a few things in order. A, don't be afraid of opening up a new card. And, you already said we know the sign up bonuses exist. But let me just take that a step further. There are a lot of people that will say, like, well, I opened a card last year. I don't want to destroy my credit. I hear this all the time. And let's say you've got a 780 or, some comparably good credit score, and you opened a card last year and you want to open another card this year that's got a great introductory bonus, you will not hurt your credit score. What you will see is generally what I say on average, is you'll see about a 7 to 10 point dip. And that's an average. It could be a little bit more, could be less, but that lasts for a few weeks. And then your score jumps right back. And here's the interesting thing that people don't think about: when you add a personal credit card and you have the credit line from that card. So let's say that right now your total available credit is $75,000, and you open a new card and they give you 25,000, and now you've got 100,000 total line. Assuming you're a good boy or girl and do not spend more because you've got more credit, your actual credit utilization rate, which is part of your FICO score, drops. And so even though you have that initial draw, like, don't open the credit card the day before you're closing on a house, obviously, but all things being equal, your score will drop for a little bit. It'll come right back to where it was. And over time, let's say you opened 2, 3 cards a year, you're going to keep expanding the amount of credit you have. And that one factor, and I can't recall offhand exactly what credit utilization, what percent of your FICO that is, but you're generally going to see your credit score rise a little bit because your utilization goes down. So don't be afraid of opening. And I'm not saying open 10 cards in a year or anything like that, but opening a few a year absolutely is healthy for your credit. And it's a very big common misconception. The second thing, everybody has some things that they spend a ton on, right? Like, if you've got a family, your grocery bills are exorbitant. So you want to make sure that you've got a credit card that rewards you well at the grocery store. Amex has a card that earns 6%, but that's in cash, but it's also got the Amex Gold, which earns 4 times on grocery spend in points. So if you're spending 2,000 a month in groceries, now you're getting 96,000 points a year for your grocery spend. So think about that, maybe, and then maybe you just signed up for the card and you got 60,000 plus points for the bonus. And it's easy to see that pretty quickly you have enough for a round trip business class ticket. And it doesn't seem like it should be that easy, but it really is. And then the last thing is to be aware of shopping and dining portals. So every airline has a shopping portal where you can book through them. All it is an extra click, right? Like, they're tracking your sale. You still go to the same store, you still buy it the same way, but then you get bonus miles from the airline for doing it. There is a website called Cashback Monitor that will actually tell you all of the rates across the board. So you can say, okay, well, I've got these 3 different accounts I like equally. And you go there and it says that one is paying out 4 miles per dollar and the others are 1 mile per dollar. So that's an easy decision. Another thing that people probably are not aware of is, are you familiar with Rakuten, which used to be Ebates?
Sure
Love
am.
Ebates.
Sure am. Yeah.
I still call it Ebates. It's been years, but love Rakuten. A lot of people don't know that you can actually earn Amex membership rewards points instead of cashback. So here's the coolest thing. If you have an Amex card that earns membership rewards, you just need one. You link that to your Rakuten account, and then you switch your earnings to points. I value an Amex point at about 1.7 cents each because I like to use them for first and business class travel. And when you use them smart, you're going to get redemptions around or more than that level. But when you switch over from cashback to earning points, it's 1 to 1. So if you agree with me that an Amex point is worth 1.7 cents, you don't have to, but let's call that an approximation. Instead of earning 1% cash back, earning 1 penny, you're earning 1.7 pennies on literally everything you earn on Rakuten. You just upped your earnings by 70% by doing nothing but changing how you earn. So there are all these different ways to earn points. I could go on, but we'd run out of time. There's all these ways that you can earn points and or miles through all of these various partnerships that you just kind of have to know about. But your balance will just, the dining program, man. So I love Alaska miles, but I don't fly Alaska. And so it's hard for me to earn Alaska miles. So I do all my shopping through them, but also I have my dining set to them because you can only pick one airline. And so every once in a while I go out to eat, and then it's like, here's your 1,700 Alaska miles. Those add up over time.
And I love the simplicity, right? Everything you mentioned, like the Rakuten, shopping, dining portals, opening up these cards, like these are quite simple. And some of them are set it and forget it as well, where it's like I set it up once and it's working for me in the background to help you fill in those gaps, which I really, really appreciate. I think the area that I struggle with is I'm a minimalist, I would say.
Hmm.
So I'm not like shopping a lot. I'm eating out a
Okay.
lot. Yeah, I'm
Well, if
eating
you're
out for
eating out a
sure.
lot, use the dining. Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's knowing yourself and knowing your spending habits is important. Would you say?
Oh, 1,000,000%. And I think that one place that people get stuck in miles and points is there's a lot of groupthink. And so when you go into some of these groups or, Reddit boards or whatever it is, a lot of people be like, here's what you do. And there's a lot of courses out there. There's a lot of course out there from people that really have only been doing this a couple of years. And the information may not be at the level that I would want them to be. So if you go down the rabbit's hole of listening to advice and say, do this, then do this, then do this, then do this, then what happens is you get caught where that one part of that chain is not something that works for you. And for a lot of people, that could just make the whole thing fall apart. And so I think you need to take the approach of here's an array of ways that I can earn points and what works for me, right? Here's another example. One of the best things about the intro bonuses for cards is small business credit cards. They earn generally bigger bonuses than consumer cards. And if you have any sort of a business, a side hustle, you sell on eBay, you sell on Etsy, whatever it is, you consult, you earn 10,000 a year consulting. That's a business. You don't need an LLC, you don't need an S corp, you don't need a business name. It's a business. And so it's going to be Schedule C on your tax return, but that doesn't matter. You're eligible to sign up for business credit cards. So a lot of people think that you need a very formal at scale business to be eligible for those cards, and you don't. So it's not only another range of bonus opportunities, but it's also another range of great bonus categories to be spending on. So somebody might have that eBay business and or that Etsy business and be very comfortable with that. And then there are other people that go, you know what? I hear what you're saying, but I'm just not comfortable with that. I feel like you need to have a more formal business. And I could say a million times, you don't, but go with what you're comfortable with, right? I never want anyone to go outside of their comfort zone. And I'm actually going to take that for a quick second to say, don't do any of the credit card stuff if you carry balances. Rewards cards have high APRs, and you will not earn back the rewards if you're paying 28% interest. So this is a game for people that pay in full. The credit card companies don't want me to say that because they earn a lot on interest. But if you have a balance that you need to overcome, do a balance transfer, something like that, work it down to zero, know that you have things under control, and then start with the travel rewards cards.
Wise, wise, wise advice, right? I love all of that. So I know we're about to head out, but I have two more questions for you, and they're very similar
Go
and
for it.
related. So I know that travel hackers love tools and resources, and you've actually created your own. But what other tools would you say are like part of your tech stack where you're like, I have these to help me keep organized, all the things?
It's funny because I don't use a lot of the tools, but I can give you some. But I will say, first of all, I did write a book called Miles Talk: Live Your Wildest Travel Dreams Using Miles and Points, and that is I bring that up here because it is a really good starting point for beginners, and it goes through things like what we've discussed. What is the difference between a mile and a point? What are the ways to search? All of that stuff. So that's to me a really nice resource. There's several websites that will let you automate reward searches. And they all have their pros and cons. And most of them have some sort of freemium model where you can do very little without paying. So acknowledge they're not going to be for everybody. But, to give a little shout to point.me, seats.aero, AERO. There is points, yeah, literally points, YEAH.com, awardtool.com, aways.com with the Z. These are some automated tools that have come online in the last couple of years that will really help someone that has no idea where to start. right? Like I could say, here are the best, you search on United, Aeroplan, British Airways, right? And these will give you sort of, and Air France, and this will give you a really good array across the board. But if even that's complicated, use one of these automated sites. And by the way, if you go to point.me, which is $12 a month, if you put in promo code Miles Talk, you get the first month for $1. So that's a good way to try out something like that. There is a company called Award Wallet that I don't use, but they are very popular in the community for tracking all of your balances across your programs, letting you know if a lot of programs don't expire miles anymore, but some still do. And so they will give you a heads up like, hey, this is, your miles are going to expire here. Use them or do something to extend activity. Most programs will let you make a dining purchase or a shopping purchase, and that'll extend your activity for another X number of years. American, believe it or not, only gives you a year and a half, but they'll extend it with any activity. And there's a bank, by the way, that you earn American Airlines miles on called Fast Bank. So you can have any size balance in there and you're going to get a monthly drip of miles that will keep your account active. So if there's something like that, you have a program that you have a large balance in, they expire miles, see if you can figure out an automated way to get some miles in there from time to time. Those are really some of the best tools. There are sort of some older tools like we used to always give a website called Award Hacker, which is really cool because it gives you the absolute best programs, lowest price programs to use for any particular route. But the reason that we kind of talk about them less now is because they don't give real time availability. And those other sites that I mentioned that charge a fee do give real time availability. So you're actually seeing, okay, now this is the cheapest way to book this flight and I can book it versus being like, oh, I could book from here to here for only 50,000 points, but there's no availability for the next year. So I think those automated tools are really top notch. And also, I mentioned before, cashbackmonitor.com, no relationship with them, just really good resource for figuring out, hey, I want to buy X product from X store and where am I going to earn the most?
Love that. And let us know about your best credit cards. What is that service about and how can it help us?
We just relaunched Your Best Credit Cards. We fondly call it 2.0 just a few months ago. And we really try to make this for everybody. So if you are very advanced, you can type in what you spend on everything and what categories and what features you want in a card, and we'll figure it all out for you very scientifically. I want to say AI, but it's not really AI. It's just really good programming. But if you're a total beginner, we have a thing called the Card Explorer, very prominent from the homepage. Go to Your Best Credit Cards, click on Explorer, and I think we call it our famous Card Explorer, and just use the filters. If it's important to you to have a card with airport lounge access and you want a 0% balance transfer offer, for example, like just click multiple filters. And what we do is our library of over 100 cards just starts whittling down. And our goal is to get you to like one or two cards that fit all of your goals. Because what exists around the internet are basically lists of cards with little reviews. And I find that incredible. How is somebody supposed to pick from that? So we're saying just tell us exactly what you want and let us present you with exactly the cards that fit that. And we also have a really cool feature where let's say you want a card, and I could tell you even know that the bonus offers bounce around. So it's 60,000 points, but you tell your friend you're thinking about applying for this card, and they're like, it was 80,000 points last year for that card. You're like, oh man, I don't want to apply for it until the offer changes. Now it might never change again, but we offer bonus offer notifications. And so you just sign up for a free account and you click the card that you want to be notified for. And when that bonus offer changes for better or worse, you'll get an instant email notification. You're like, oh, okay, now is the time. And we're also about to launch, I don't know when this podcast will air, but we're about to launch transfer bonus notifications as well. So if you've got Amex points and you're like, you know what? I don't have anything immediate, but I want to know when there's a transfer bonus, 10, 20, 30, 40% somewhere. You can subscribe and you can pick one program or all programs, and we will send you a notification and let you know. So we're really trying to be full service.
Yeah, just those features alone, it just saves you time, brain power, research. Like, check your inbox for what's going on. I love that.
Yep.
So incredible.
Yep.
So, so incredible. Well, Dave, this was so amazing. Thank you so much for opening up our eyes to the possibility of business class and first class and making it something that I feel like listeners can tangibly shoot for this year. So, thank you so much. How can folks connect with you and stay in touch?
So it's absolutely my pleasure. The number one thing is come to the Miles Talk Facebook group. I promise we bill ourselves as the friendliest travel group on Facebook. We do not bite anyone faces off for asking a question that some people think are too easy. Ask us anything. I am on Twitter and Instagram at Miles Talk. I mentioned the book before. You could just type in Miles Talk on Amazon if you want the paperback version of that book. Of course, milestalk.com and yourbestcreditcards.com.
I love it. And I'll have all the links to the show notes. So thanks again for listening, Financially Savvy Travelers, and we'll see you soon.